Hey, your microphone is off.
That makes sense. Well, let me see here. Audio output, internal microphone for a second. Cam mic, audio, default speakers. Okay. And then see if this plays. Oh. Hey, everybody.
This program is coming to you via Relay 2 satellite. A spacecraft orbiting the Earth at a speed of 17,000 miles. Xirtus.
I think that pretty much sums it up, really.
Yeah, nice.
So we're back with Aljoša. How's it going, everybody?
Yeah, hello.
Look at this. If I go like this, you can actually see where it says philosophy and meme right on my shirt, which is really exciting. I don't know if you guys all know this yet, but APM is like a really weird trolley problem where we try to take as many people and hit them with the trolley and the trolleys of knowledge and ideology, apparently. Aljoša's back. Aljoša, how you been?
Hello, everyone.
Dude, this is cool. I like that we've got it's kind of coming together. We got this idea now where we're gonna kind of go through the media that we're sharing. Maybe I should share the screen again, show you guys. APM is, it's on the post executive order Zuckerberg Facebook. It's a Zuckerberg, and we've got it set up where you can get your Tartarian and APM leggings because you know how people need those, but you can also get your memes, man. There's like really a lot of memes going on in here. Some of them are funnier than others, but there's definitely an interesting group of people that are sharing lots of information. So we thought we'd go over a bit of the memes. And yeah, actually, you know what? While we're doing it, just because check out these leggings, dude. Like if you really wanted leggings, this is where to get your leggings because you've got your Xirtus and APM and Tartary Nova thing. So, and then we're going to start doing meme decks, I think. Not just leggings. I just really want you to get the leggings. But there's sweatshirts too. But yeah, so it's weird. This is becoming kind of a real thing. Like, we've got people, like actually someone got a sweatshirt, someone got a pair of leggings. So there's already walking advertisements for our memes. So that's pretty neat. But yeah, like Aljoša and I have been thinking about doing this show kind of where we talk about the philosophy behind some of the memes that we're going through. I think it's kind of funny. So yeah, what do you think we should start, really? I think you were talking about utilitarianism. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, sure.
Jeremy Bentham's hilarious.
I mean, yes, that's the most memeable philosophy there is. I mean, utilitarianism. Can you show them on screen?
Yeah.
Like you've got those, like I created trolley problem memes a couple of years ago, like the Facebook page. And then we just started memeing the shit out of utilitarianism, and that was fucking hilarious.
And show some trolley problem memes. I mean, you'd be surprised. Yeah. There's some pretty good stuff on the internet. Problem memes, which is a fun channel here, and it's got 250,000 followers, and you can see basically every version of the trolley problem. You want to. Let's pick one that you really like. Maybe this one's kind of fun. Can you guys read this okay? Is that showing up on the screen? Here, I'll make it bigger.
It's a bit little.
Let's see if we can get that. That's as big as it wants to go. Oh, I know what to do. Open image and new tab. This is how you win. This is how you win the war. Okay. So you have two cows. A trolley is headed for one of these cows. This cow will produce milk, which you can use to feed your family, but it has a 50% chance of dying of natural causes or being taken by the government. which that's how real is life, right? With another 50% chance they will buy your cow for a reasonable price, or you will just take it. With another 25% chance that they will just shoot you no matter what method you use to obtain your cow. I mean, we've all been there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's life, as you said.
That is a Slav's life. If you pull the lever, the trolley will hit the other cow. The other cow will also produce milk when it gets hit. Or I'm just sorry, but the milk can only be used to give to the government, who will then use it to sell it back to you at a discounted price because your cow supplied the milk. I remember something like this pre-trolley. This is better with the trolley because now it's like this impending fate is coming. You can either give the milk back to the government and continue the cycle until you run out of money, or use the milk to feed your family with a 33% chance that your cow will get shot at some point in the near future.
That's the most complex meme I saw in my fucking life. What the fuck is going on?
You are only vaguely aware of the... By the way, I didn't make this one. You know, my meme, my trolley problem meme, my favorite one that I've ever done is just Pol Pot smashing a trolley. I honestly think that that's you just take the trolley and you get rid of it at the beginning of the Cultural Revolution. And then,
right,
but like, that's
you just reject the dilemma. I mean, yeah.
I mean, I was talking to Seth Nicholson, who's also Trolley's VI, very important trolley problem solver, and VITP, and he's talked a bit about this with me. What if the trolley problem wasn't so conclusive? Because if it's death, you know what death is, but if it's like the trolley problem, he gets a head injury, or the trolley problem is that he goes to jail or to a cultural play. It's like, it really changes the way the trolley problem works. But okay, we didn't quite get to the end, so I apologize for my ADHD. You are only vaguely aware of the concept of political satire. So you will still find either situation mildly humorous, even though you don't really know what any of it symbolizes. What do you do? So which cow do you kill? You know what I mean? Because you gotta.
Holy fucking shit! I feel like I need a fucking calculator.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't do this by math. I think that's how every math test confuses you. You know what I mean? This is one of those simple, like, do you work for the government or do you die fighting it? Basically, it's more of an ethics thing. Do you want your family to run out of pride or food? Which is the more important thing to you, really?
Yeah, I see. I mean, maybe that was just my utilitarian instinct to think of a calculator of which one of those choices would generate the most good for the maximal amount of people.
That is the ultimate goal of a utilitarianist, is to feel like you did good for others as much as possible, so that you can sleep at night. So maybe we should look.
So you gave meaning to your existence, basically.
We should find an even more utilitarian example. I don't know. How about lying, letting other people die horrific deaths? I don't know.
That's kind for you.
Where's a good Bentham? Do you have any quick to find Bentham ones? Because there's there's a lot. There's a lot here going on.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, there's 4 years of content here, so.
Well, guys, definitely make sure you take the time to check out trolley problem memes, because it's mildly humorous. I mean, it's actually more than mildly humorous. It
depends on the meme.
It depends on the person. It depends on the memer. If the memer gets it or not. I don't know, Dad. I genuinely don't know. Son, are you winning? Yeah. This is because all right. So if you guys get the idea of the problems that we're facing here, right? You guys get the trolley problem. You've got a trolley. It's going to hit somebody. There's a great book, Master and the Margarita. Bogakov does it with the trolley problem. And essentially you watch as the guy dies because he can't make a decision quick enough. And then a lot of people die. And so Nicholas Benoit has one. The first one, because you don't cuck to the government. See, I told you, there's always going to be someone who doesn't use any math whatsoever. But it has more to do with, you think that the government is helping enough people by robbing Peter and Paul to pay Peter and Paul and the government? Or do you think that somehow if you sell milk, you can sell it cheaper, that people will be able to afford it or something? I mean, it becomes more of an ideological, like, which system really works. The murder lever. But yeah, so in Boga Coffee, you have to decide between doctors and a baby who might grow up to be very important. Let's add this one to the screen. One person who throws their used car batteries in the ocean, 5 AutoZone employees. You know what I mean? Which one does this? Is pretty utilitarian, right? Like the 5 AutoZone employees are deemed useless for whatever reason, which is, I like AutoZone, by the way. I prefer to go O'Reilly's, but still, I've never had a problem. And then one person who throws their used car batteries in the ocean. Well, that's pretty bad, you'd think, right? But only because you watch Bill Nye the Science Guy and nobody who knows anything about science, because realistically, volcanoes in the ocean are going to consume lead acid. There's lots of coral reefs that form around different metals and toxins that we find toxic. So this is a very subjective human problem, I would say. But maybe we should check out more of the advanced philosophy memes. What do you think? About time?
Yeah, sure, we can do that.
Do you want to screen share your side and pull up some of the ones that you were looking at? Because I know you had a few.
Yeah, I mean, can you can just the ones that I showed you, the ones that I just sent you, like.
Oh, they're sent to me. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go look at them.
Since we're already at utilitarianism, then we might as well go through the utilitarian
we're halfway there.
impact.
You guys, make sure you buy your leggings. You know you need them. You know it. All right. 0.2 seconds after being... I have to open these in different windows to make them big enough. 0.2 seconds after becoming a utilitarian. How to kill. Yeah. So maybe we should talk about this. Is utilitarianism a murder-free, innocent, pious? What's it about? Why is it about... Why does it seem like it's an ethical thing, yet it's dealing with death? And why does it have to?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it depends on how far you're willing to, go with it, the maximizing good, because, just like in the trolley problem meme, I mean, you gotta sacrifice one person in order to preserve the 5 people on the other track that, if you have to choose, then obviously, well, the way to minimize or maximize good or minimize, suffering or death would be to effectively kill one person. So, this extends then to like debates about, you're a doctor and you can sacrifice one random passerby to use his organ and save 5 patients. I mean, then certainly you're maximizing good, but at what cost? Are there some higher principles that you're abusing here? Are you like creating a society of psychopaths, or where every doctor can just go on a hunt for organs? Is this a society in which we would like to live? But yeah, effectively,
I mean sometimes you do, right? Like, have you read Moravigine? It's like a doctor follows a serial killer around because no one knows about health without disease. So if you really want to know how to have in the future a society without disease, then you should spend about 100 years studying a criminal mind and endgame theory and philosophy. So you really get all, and you really get as much. I mean, people are living and dying all the time. So you really want to study death and murder right now while it's happening as much as possible so that you can stop it better for 1,000 years, right? That's kind of, you can't stop it right the second for permanently, but you could in the future. And this gets into we have one of our comments here. Let's show it. Donald Albert in California says, you can't talk systems without math. And I think he's making fun of me, and he's right too, because trying to do a utilitarian meme without getting out a calculator is kind of, I was making a joke. You really need to. You can't really, and you need to do formulas because you need to think, okay, well, what's the long-term consequence of this person existing versus not existing in their interactions? So it always comes back to that. I think the best example is if you see a mouse, no, let's change. Let's just do the school example, the simplest one. If you're getting hit by a train, it's terrible, right? But if you see a bunch of kids get hit by a train or a trolley, it's worse. And if you could have stopped those kids from getting hit by that trolley and you don't, you're going to feel so bad So it's almost worth it to jump in front of the trolley to heroically, quote unquote, save the children, because then you will be able to sleep at night, right? So that becomes the only reason, according to Bentham, that people would do anything good is out of a self-interest.
I see. So an egoistic argument for sacrifice. I mean,
please tell me your perspective on that. I've argued this before, and I feel like I'm always missing something about Bentham. I mean,
yeah, I mean, that is a line of thought that keeps, coming back. For example, Peter Singer was also, I seen him, somebody asked about Peter Singer in the comments. He's a,
that's Donald again.
utilitarian, famous. Yeah, so, yeah, Singer is a, let's say, I mean, arguably the most important, philosopher that deals with ethic that is still alive, I think, of the modern, past few decades. And yeah, he had given a egoistic argument for utilitarianism. Basically, he just pulled up a bunch of studies that were tracking the life of several altruists and how their altruistic behavior led them to have a happier. They self-reported to be happier and more satisfied with their lives. And drawing on such studies, Singer, in his book Practical Ethics, basically proposed that, well, maybe you should be following utilitarianism and donate money and do good for other people, because in the end, it's gonna be you who will profit from this. And so yeah, this line of egoistic justification for utilitarianism tends to be still a thing. And yeah, just I'm not completely sure how it's with Bentham. I studied more J.S. Mill, who is well, basically he read Bentham, he knew Bentham, and well, he completely fell in love with that philosophy and derived his own form of utilitarianism. And well, I think that he had some kind of egoistic argument for utilitarianism as well. And well, he didn't want. Well, one problem for utilitarianism, of course, is if you want to maximize happiness, why don't you just get high, or why don't you just grab a bunch of rats who are very small, right? And you just breed a bunch of them, and you give heroin to each one of them. You make them all high, and you make them overdose, and you just repeat that cycle over and over, and you just have a gigantic rat farm, and you just continually put them on heroin. I mean,
so
that's gonna be
in a weird way, like the inner city drug problem is actually utilitarianism. Thank you. That like the fact that they're not making the drugs themselves and they're being supplanted into the inner city, so they have something to keep them happy, so that they don't have, and that literally is a form of utilitarianism. Another good example of utilitarianism to me is Wizards of Waverly Place, the Disney TV show. You've got a bunch of kids who practice witchcraft, so they're sort of Ubermensch. They're Ubermensch. They're outside of normal reality, and they tell the kids at school, that they're going to manipulate reality and they're going to get their way and they're going to do all these things. They'll take their parents and put spells on them, so their parents let them do whatever they want, stay up all night, until eventually they realize that by getting their way too much, they're destroying the universe in some way, and then fun won't happen after that. So in order to sustain manipulating your parents forever, you need to every once in a while do the right thing for the greater good. And I've seen this in almost every Disney show ever made. Like you've got the bad guy realize that, they ask, why do you want, at some point the bad guy is helping defeat the worst guy to help the bad guy. And it's like, well, because if the baddest guy wins, there'll be nothing left to rob. So there's always kind of a positive to utilitarianism, but Mills is different. See, because the thing about Bentham is he comes from this Thoreauvian Emerson period. Robert Owens, like New Harmony was this idea. And so the idea of socialism as a top-down system, we would get people on dry, take the women, put them into a curfewed sewing system, give them the right food, educate their kids, keep them healthy, and you'd have a sustainable workforce that was healthy, and everyone would be better off. And so there's a lot of reasons why this, socialism as a selfish thing for the elite started to introduce itself, and utilitarianism comes with the Panopticon. So utilitarianism has this idea of a prison made of mirrors and two-way glass, so that everyone feels like they're being watched all the time, kind of like now. And because of that, they behave a little bit better, because they're always thinking if they're being watched, then they should be on their best behavior.
Wasn't the idea of the Panopticon to just have a tower in the middle of the prison, and then the prison cells being aligned in a circle, so that you can never precisely see the people, the guy in the tower? So,
well, I would say the noble
potentially watched.
The knowable Tao is not the eternal Tao, right? So like the idea of that idea in a digital world would shift slightly, but it's the same product. The product is that people are controlled, that people feel like they're more controlled than they really even are, because at any point they could be controlled. And that way they're allowed more freedom than they really even realize. Because it's like right now I'm in a room and there's a camera watching me. So I have to behave, right? And even if the camera wasn't on, I would assume there's a microphone recording, because that's the way America works. So at some point, or Snowden said the world. So at some point we kind of feel like we're being watched all the time. And that's not necessarily bad, but there's reasons why I think the thing that's missing from utilitarianism that Mills kind of maybe starts to like look at, but it's not quite there, but it's still the thing that's missed that Bentham does not get this. It's like the fact that humanity feels good or bad depending on whether or not they do more for other people or for the world. There's a biological instinct. So it's like, even though you can presuppose ethics on it and make it be like, well, really, he's just trying to make himself feel good, and you can hack your biology to feel good or bad with heroin or with saving a bunch of kids, it still shows that humanity has a positive goal. There's some sort of weird thing. I mean, why? Because it could be just that we want to kill everyone else and reproduce. So why is it that biologically then we have this goal to do something good? That's a weird philosophical conundrum.
Wait, Mill was Mill talking about that?
Yeah. Let me see if I can find a good quote on that. I'm scared to look on my Google because who knows how long it will take.
Yeah, I was not aware of him.
Xenophon's anti-bias, and he talks a bit about the strenuous character and vigorous intellect of his father, which made him real. This is where he gets it. It's something about his father, and he realizes that because his father was a good guy, but he's doing it because of social values. His dad makes mistakes, but even though he makes mistakes, he has this intention, and so the intention is actually like a biological imperative, and that people don't do that just because. I mean, Mills also explains like it's part of wanting to reproduce. It's part of the selfish gene and all those things. But it's still, and it's the lobster argument. It's like there is this built-in idea of being a decent person, which is kind of hard to ignore in history. Like Schopenhauer tries to kind of dismiss it, but really, he just dismisses it by making fun of it. He's like, why do people try to be good all the time? It's like, well, they do. So there is something weird about that, whether it's selfishness or vanity or whatever. Humans do try to do the right thing a lot. Bonifacio Rio says free will is not the best of things to have. Emotions are weakness. I thought that was Darth Sidious who said that, but that's all right. I'm still, go with the Sith. Xenophon, also very important, talked a bit about just behavior. And I think that was a major influence, because after Cyrus's defeat, Cyrus was very important because on Columbus Day in 539 BC, he liberated all of these people. He said, all of my servants will be liberated. They just have to pay taxes now. So it's still considered a holiday in a lot of places. And people wonder, why did he do that? And he did that, of course, because why destroy Babylon when you have one? Keep it, like it's worth something. So it was a selfish thing, but it was one of the most historically beneficial, benevolent, humanitarian acts is the saving of Babylon. But okay, back to memes. This is the ideal utilitarian body. You might not like it, but this is what peak ethics look like. I think this sums up what we were just saying.
I actually made this meme. I think like 2 years ago. Yeah, or 3. I don't know. But let's start. This meme specifically, started the whole calculator meme. Utilitarianism equals calculating shit meme a while back, and then every Facebook page just started memeing the shit out of calculators and utilitarianists. So that was kind of fun.
I can't tell whether this is an actual Slovenian or President Macron, but either way, I think it says the same thing in a way. So we'll go up a bit more. Here's some more utilitarianist memes. Person. Can you read this? Okay. Yeah. Person with healthy organs exists. Utilitarians, you've forfeited your life privileges. So what do you mean? What do you mean by this one? Let's explain this to people.
Yeah, I mean, if you have that's the doctor dilemma, right? A healthy person walks into your hospital. You have 5 dying patients, each in need of 1 healthy organ, and they will die if they don't get it. Well, why not sacrifice this 1 person and save 5 people with it? He might die. He had bad luck. You basically murdered him, but you are, in the end of the day, 5 people will live in, not just 1. So if it's just basic calculation, basic trolley problem between 1 and 5 people, maybe, some people thought this might be a valid conclusion. Yeah.
This is a very convincing trolley problem, because if it's like, well, not only do you get to kill 1 person instead of 4, but you get to use their stuff to keep the other people healthy. What if you've got Stephen Hawking's? Like, give him some baby DNA from stem cells, or whatever. Because, like, who's to say? I mean, think about how many kids from this neighborhood are never going to succeed at life. Just take their organs and give them to Stephen Hawking's. That's utilitarianism in its most, frigid form, I would say.
Yeah, in its more, let's say, brutally direct form, because obviously I don't think there's any utilitarianist that would non-ironically just say let's start killing people.
Well, except for the ones who run the world, of course. But the normal guys like us.
Yeah, the normal guys like us still have that bit of altruism genetically, being present in our DNA. That's also that what you said earlier, like, why do people still do good? Why do we do things that are beneficial to everyone and not just to ourselves? And maybe there is something in us that made it evolutionary necessary for us to care about other people. And that's also like the argument about some, like, how the sales give us, like, oh, if God doesn't exist, anything is permitted. And then Nietzsche was like, without values, without this value system of religion that was built upon centuries, everything will go to shit and people will fall into nihilism. But that doesn't mean that people will just start killing each other. You don't need a argument or reason to do beneficial things to other people. I mean, that's just observable fact that people do beneficial things for each other. And I mean, even if there's no metaphysical grounding or even meta-ethical grounding for your ethics, it's just it's still fact that people are gonna do, most of them are gonna do what benefits the whole group. So.
And Sartre, I think, said, what did Sartre? I lost it for a second. It was basically that hold on, I'll go back to it because I've already lost the thought. Bonifacio Rio wrote, children learn not only what they're taught, but by the actions of those around them, which observations. I would say that's what they're taught in a sense, but not necessarily what they're educated by or professed No one necessarily had to profess that; they just had to see their action. This is why toxic masculinity is better than no masculinity at all. If you see a poor father, you're more likely to try to not do the things you've seen them do, if you've seen them. If you haven't, you might end up in the same biological imperative and not have any idea what to do, not know which vice to choose or whatever. And so often learning what not to do is just as valuable as learning what to do. Observations, you might tell the kids, don't do this, but adults are doing it, causing. I would also say this is a part of what's taught by Tavistock, this idea that poisons are just adult pleasures. So when you're a child, you're taught, don't stay up late, don't do these things that aren't necessarily so bad, don't eat dessert before your dinner or whatever, just Bernaysian tricks. But when you get that freedom, then all of a sudden it's the only thing you care about, because it's like you were told, don't ever go outside your closet. And so you don't even think about going to the moon or the world. You just want the door of your closet open so you can stand outside of it. It's a very limited, extensive perception. Avoid the issues altogether. That's great. I don't necessarily get what you meant by that, Rios, if you want, but Nofasti, if you want to, expand on that. But
maybe there's a lot of utilitarianists, like, you could just not see, you could just not acknowledge the logical implications of your philosophical system and be like, yeah, I'm not gonna put rats on heroin, but happiness for the most of sentient beings is still what I prefer. But then you fail to properly argue why exactly putting rats on heroin is not the most ethical thing to do.
Yeah, especially because the rats are always there. It's easier for them to unplug this car stereo and get the stereo out through the hood. So there's just all the heroin rats are stealing all the car radios, and it's a big problem in the inner cities. So this is a good meme. When you cheat on a test in ethics class, ironic.
Ironic.
I like this one a lot.
Yeah. You still get an A, then you're just like, well.
But I've seriously
found, right?
I found ethics to be, well, that's the thing. Ethics are not what you think they are. Well, they're what you think they are. They're not what normally people are taught ethics are. You know what I mean? They tell you that ethics are good behavior, I think, right? That's kind of what a kindergartner, be ethical.
Yeah.
But as you get older, ethical becomes like, okay, so you're in a trolley problem. How do I be ethical in this situation? You got two people that are beating each other, to death. And one of them's upset because the other one had sex with their mom. And the other one is upset because they had sex with their mom, because it's probably some incestuous, weird Southern thing. And who knows? Like, you might be the judge in some really bad circumstance. How do you tear the baby in half? Solomon says, right? You've got some lady who stole a baby. And then the other lady says, no, she stole my baby. What do? Well, you say tear the baby in half. That's kind of an ethics thing. We don't know who it really is. Each one of you says it's yours. You both get half of the baby. Tear the baby in half. That's kind of where ethics have, and we kind of start to delineate out of that. I think Confucius, Legal. We talked earlier with the Chinese guy, Master Andrew from Hong Kong, about Legal and Confucianism versus Lao Tzu. But this idea that then the final solution is don't tear the baby in half. Give the baby to the lady who says, no, let the other lady have it if that means it has to be torn in half. I don't want the baby to die. So there are positives that come out of ethics, and it comes back to utilitarianist greater good. But you can still cheat. So, or do you agree? Can you cheat in ethics? How do you feel about that?
Well, you can always cheat to just change the goal of your actions. You can be like, yeah, I'm gonna maximize good for everyone, and then you get an opportunity to have a lot of money sent to some, I don't know, charity organization. But then you can cheat. You can choose to not donate any of it and take shoot some drugs of your system, have some fast cars, some hookers, and you've cheated the system. You'll have a fucking amazing time. You have the time of your fucking life. So and you will, maybe you will die an overdose, and you die as the happiest bastard on the earth. So yeah, you can always cheat the test. You just change objectives. But yeah,
It's
I
true.
don't know.
As
Like
ethics alter themselves. I mean, if you've ever been a chauffeur
yeah,
for one of those call girls that, like, you know, she's got a strap on for one of the Hollywood producers, you know, he's got his own issues. So at a certain point, you're in LA or something, ethics really become very plastic and subjective. And you're like, if you're driving a prostitute so that she can then afford to buy a house for her, you know, baby, it all of a sudden you're like, wow, I live in this world of evil, or at least of not a distant sight or a broader mind. So it becomes a lot harder. Like, how do you help? I mean, let's say also, you know, it would be considered in the 1600s a good thing to be a Christian in a lot of places. Let's consider some of the churches at the time, you know, where the Protestants or the Catholics are molesting the people. They're getting paid ransom to forgive things before they happen. At a certain point, ethics aren't necessarily what society says they are, and then we're, you know, maybe it says marijuana is illegal, but you should take opiates because that's prescription, because it's the ethical thing to do. The opiates of the masses.
You know, this is a very great paper that was just. I think that the name is something to do with moral catastrophes. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, the author basically coined the term moral catastrophe, and it's about, well, you live in a certain society, you live in a certain time, in a certain ideology. So well, from your perspective, it's not always very obvious that, well, you're collectively engaging in some, you know, morally catastrophic behavior. I mean, for example, even Aristotle, he was like, you know, he was defending slavery, for example, and Kant was a heavy racist, for example. And that just goes to show that, you know, great minds of the past, even they got, you know, they got influenced by their society and their times, and they were unable to see clearly, you know, in some more objective grounds, what would be the right thing to do. And yeah, we might be living in a moral catastrophe right now. Maybe killing animals is a moral catastrophe, and we're just failing to see that because we are living in this, you know, certain ideology that just, well, everyone seems to be okay with it. And yeah, basically the paper suggests some degree of moral flexibility. Uh, you know, basically what that's a scientific or philosophical attitude. Anyways, like you take new arguments in, new data, and you have to be prepared to change how you behave when you get new ideas, when you get new arguments, and you have to follow that argumentation to its logical conclusions, and not be aware that what seems intuitive to you is just something in you that follows what is familiar, and you shouldn't always follow your intuitions in regards to ethics, for example. So yeah, that is certainly a very interesting thing to think about. Yeah,
And thinking
maybe
about
some
Kant,
flexibility would be the answer.
even in terms of Kant, I mean, like, so we live in a time now that I would argue is a lot more racist than it was a few hundred years ago. Because a couple hundred years ago, we knew there were different kinds of people that lived in different places, but how different are they really? They're still humans, and we interact with them. It was really, I think, Blavatsky who kind of talked about 5 root races that are all part of the same, all these different ethnicities being part of one race. And now we live in a time where we say that white people, that is to say European people, are white. And that's an interesting thing. We didn't used to do that. We've now created this color system. And black people, which we didn't used to do either. We used to say, you know, these are people from this place, these are people from that place. They have diversity. Now it's just their one identity politic. And in America specifically, we say that minorities, or whatever that means anymore, because really everyone's a kind of minority, because it takes intersectional systems of oppression to really control a democracy. So you have to make sure that nobody has a majority, because you could always divide women into different colored women's or into different political spectrum women. It's like always making sure there's a smaller and smaller hierarchy. But we've decided, especially the you see the liberal progressive United States Americans saying these people are under an identity politics system which has oppressed them. So therefore, this systemic oppression exists. And so these people, they really are black or whatever, because, you know, I mean, how many men or women identify anywhere specifically by the color of their skin, unless it's in a social circumstance? But we're saying, thank God I'm not, but a lot of people are saying that these people are, you know, for whatever reason, we've done this, we've made them, we have the power to make them weaker. And so we've made them subhuman to us, and we're the only ones who have the privilege to help them. We have the responsibility because we're better people, we're supreme. So you have a new kind of supremacy which comes out of ethics, and especially out of the university system, where they say we really need to be the ones to help these people who are helpless. And if that's not racism or oppression and prejudice, I don't know really what is. But it has become kind of this system. I mean, not to say that we can't all do things and recognize our own privileges, but that's a much broader thing than what it's become, which is that there's racism. Now it's just straight up enforced systemic racism. And I think Kant would even say that he would give the benefit of the doubt to somebody who had tried harder, despite whatever place they were from, what they look like. Like if they were Kantian rhythmed, he would have noticed that. He would have observed that. He would have respected that. And if he had seen a Austrian or German who did drugs, was an opiate addict, lied, cheated, drank, missed all of his appointments, he wouldn't care that that person was from where he's from and they were white, because they would have broken all of the rules to being an ethical person in his mind. So even though there is a certain amount of respect to diversity that Kant has, it's not necessarily the color that he finds supreme. It's not the Ubermensch quality of them. It's the way they behave. I think that that's a huge thing missed with Kant. Like he really would have given a chance to anybody who actually could arrive at the exact second. Thoughts on that?
I thought that like Kant was talking about well, he had a hierarchy of like a hierarchy of reason or something like that, or hierarchy of races, I think. And didn't he say like he talk like about whites being on the top, and then you have like well, blacks who can be domesticated, and then reds who can't be domesticated because they are too violent.
Right. No, I mean, he's completely racist. Don't anybody listening, don't get confused. Kant seriously was he was racist in a very xenophobic way. So if we start to break up the Trotskyist term racism, and it's like, you know, I don't want to just eat at IKEA. I like restaurants. I like diversity of restaurants. You could literally call me a racist for just wanting to culturally appropriate tacos. The difference is centricity, supremacy, and insolence. He's this very insular person. So he's thinking, well, these are the best because I'm an ethnocentrist. Mine is the best, you know, but more than just that I'm an ethnocentrist, I'm an ethnosupremacist. Trotsky, you know, would say this guy thinks that he's the best. But, you know, what did he say? He said that blacks could be, we use the word domesticated. So it really gets down to this idea that what he really values are the cultural values more than anything. And if you can dress like that, if you can stand where you need to stand at the right time, if you know what to do at which fork to use at the meal, then instantly he would have been, you know, stoked with you. And it's really interesting looking at this problem with the Germans specifically in the 19th century, because, well, where are a lot of Germans living? South America. Where's the most diverse place with the most genetic mixing? Brazil. Where did all the Nazis go after their eugenics experiments in Germany? Brazil. So you've got, like, you know, that's Mengele and everything else. So what you find is racism is definitely a factor, but the most important thing to them is domestication. It's the idea of taking everyone from every color, including Pink Floyd, and putting him through one homogenized fascistic beam. You know, and that's kind of the thing I'm most scared of about the modern ethic, is that it's trying to take your diversity and his and her diversity and say that those things are weapons against each other, and that we shouldn't really even have diversity. It's like, well, I like tacos. I like the idea of Mexico existing. I like the idea of Africa having different languages spoken to this day and matriarchies and things. That technically is racism. I'm not as afraid to say it, because as a Californian, like, even to become progressive, you have to admit you're racist in order to try to defeat racism. But I mean, at the same time, we should be trying to defeat ethno-supremacy, ethnocentricity. We should be trying to divide away these ideas so that we can respect. Like, if someone comes up to me and says 200 years of oppression, 400 years of oppression, I now identify as a black man. I'm not going to say you can't. I'm not going to take that away from them. You know, I think that that's their right to. But okay, we went on a tangent, I think, perhaps. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Wait, wait, I wanted to add something, but I lost my track. Oh, okay.
I do this when I rant, man. I'm sorry. We can come back to it. I promise. All the time in the world.
It's okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm in utilitarianism. Utilitarianism stands for this.
Yeah, I use math to ignore the hard problems in ethics. I mean, it worked. It works. I can tell. Basic calculation.
Okay, so these don't really stand for it. I was like trying to figure out.
No.
I was like, ugh. I was trying so hard. I was like, UI. Oh man, urinary infection. It's a UTI. I saw the UI and the T, and I knew instantly. It was like someone has a problem peeing. All right. But yeah, you have to use math. Let's go back a second. I think we're in the wrong direction on your page. Here we go. Here's one. Utilitarians be like, congrats. You are one of our surprise organ donors. Yeah, that's sums it up. And then here's another trolley problem. I'm going to open this one a little bit bigger because that seems essential.
Oh, I really like this one. It's, well, again, a egoistic argument in favor of utilitarianism, right? Like, if you don't know where you'll be in the trolley problem, right? You're against a veil, behind a veil of ignorance. Who was the guy who formulated this argument, the veil of ignorance argument? Not sure anymore. But yeah, basically the argument is like, yeah, you don't know where you'll be in the trolley problem mean. However, you have to choose that scenario in advance. And regarding your personal interest, would you like the lever to be pulled? Now you see the options, and you have like a 5 out of 8 option chance that you will be, you know, in the majority of people killed. So regarding your personal interest, you should, you know, favor people acting in a utilitarianist way, and that should be also that's also a general argument in favor of utilitarianism. For most of the time, you will be part of the majority. So if you have to choose in advance who will profit, maybe you should choose the majority if you don't know where you're being, because your chances of ending up there are much higher. So I think that was Rawls' argument in favor of socialism. I'm not sure, but yeah, right. Like the goods should be distributed evenly amongst you know, people. That's probably what most people would choose in advance. If they would be behind a veil of ignorance, they wouldn't like some people to be extremely poor and some to be extremely wealthy, because you don't know whether you will be, you know, put in the place of the extremely poor people. So better have the safe bet and pick socialism, or not really socialism, but a kind of social democracy, or yeah, that's probably what he was saying.
it's as close to equity as you can get without shooting the other guy while you're on the trolley. You know what I mean? Like if you kill as many people as possible, that's equity, you know? And maybe that's kind of why I'm not a huge person for equity. I think diversity is actually better, but like that's a personal opinion. I think if this one guy dies, that's diversity of experience. You know what I mean? And you've got 4 dudes who have different perspectives on watching someone die. So that's going to change their life forever. And one of them has a different day than the other guy's day. One of them forgot to say I love you to their wife that morning. The other one yelled at his wife, I hate you, I hate bacon, don't ever make it again. And the third one is saying, like, I did say I love you and I'm ready to die. And then they don't get to die. And then there's a few other guys there just for good measure. And each one of them is going to walk away from that and make different decisions. And the world's going to need as many different decisions to be made as possible. But, you know, you can either kill all those guys so that this one guy watches 5 people die and he's just like, whoa, I don't even know what to do with that, you know, because he just watched 5 people die. Like, I don't know how to change my life now. I'm going to start drinking. Like, that's kind of where I think it becomes, how much can you really expect anybody to do? And especially if it could be you, because like, who's to say you're any better or worse than anybody else? I mean, you know, if it's a problem that's clearly demonstrated that these people are going to be brain surgeons, it's one thing. But really what this is asking, like, whom can you get to change their life from seeing this happen? Like,
interesting. Never looked at it in that way.
I mean, I could be wrong. That's definitely a crazier way to look at it. Don't let me corrupt your mind. Come on.
Yeah, I was looking for a more basic utilitarian choice between 5 people and 1 person, but yeah, I mean that's quite a twist.
Interpersonal relationships are math. I swear to God. Let me open these up a little bit bigger because you know what Facebook likes to do? They like to crush these pictures down. By the way, everybody watching this, don't feel like you're left out. We're about to mention why Advanced Philosophy Memes on Facebook is the underdog to what really needs to exist. Let me show you guys the Discord again. This is where things are headed in terms of getting people on APM to have a less censored place that they can communicate with. Let me see if I can stop. Add application window. All right, Discord. You guys have seen Discord before. This is the Xirtus Tartary Discord. We right now have about, you know, like 6 classes and 1,000 people, you know, offline right now is 788, but there's tons more going on right now. There's droids, Phoenicians, esoterians, chroniclers, clarifics, each one sort of a different level. And we have conversations, we share data, there's memes that are just, you know, like you can get away with a lot more on the Discord. Plus we have radio chats very often and more often now that time has become a bit more stable. You can get access to music. It's basically like your own little Facebook away from Facebook. Everything is pretty well encrypted. Everything's private. And so I recommend getting the chance together to go check out the Discord. We'll put a link here for anyone who's not already a member. I would say a good percentage of these people already are. But in terms of APM, you guys, you know, get together and hang out. Going back to the memes. There we go. This one. Okay. And then, okay, utilitarians when they solve a moral dilemma. That kind of utilitarian aestheticism, intuitionism, pessimism, Machiavellianism, collectivism, deontology. How would you say that? Sorry.
Deontology. That's basically Kant. Yeah,
oh, okay.
Deontology.
And then egoism.
Deontos. So,
so why don't we
moral laws? Yeah.
Explain. Start with deontology for me because I got confused, even though I love Kant. But go on a bit more with the rest of them. I just failed that test. I feel bad.
Oh. Yeah, no problem. That's well. So here we have utilitarianism. We've talked about utilitarianism. So that's about maximizing good for the maximal amount of people.
She became the troll princess.
Yeah,
that's pretty real.
Yeah, because well, maybe it's for the greater good that she stays that she becomes a troll princess, right? I guess. I guess. So then we have what is that aestheticism? Huh, I thought it's gonna be say aestheticism. Yeah, okay. So yeah, that's apparently
what looks good,
hmm?
what looks good, what
Yeah,
looks
yeah,
right. As long as it seems
yeah,
decent in society, it's okay if they beat
yeah,
their kids, you know, because they look good at church and at school.
yeah. That's basically Dorian Gray would be a aestheticist, or uh, Nabokov's characters, Vladimir Nabokov, they would be aestheticism, right? Yeah. So then we have intuitionism. What? Intuition. How do you say that? Intuitionism. What?
Intuitionism.
Intuition. Yeah. So that's
It's kind of like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. You just really have to practice that, and then you can get most English portmanteaus.
yeah. Okay, nice. We'll do that. I definitely need some practice. So intuitionism, it's about you should follow basically your intuitions in moral reasoning. And that's also one thing that following trolley problems is you try to see where your intuition guides you when you try to solve moral dilemmas, and from that you try to get them into a consistent whole that basically acts as a moral theory. But yeah, that's a messy theory, because yeah, intuitions aren't very consistent always. So, but yeah, that's intuitionism for you. Then you have pessimism. Basically, life is suffering.
You're going
Everyone
to
will
eat my
die.
friends,
The
not my
universe will.
I'm sorry.
The universe will fucking collapse into itself. It won't matter whether you've been a fucking Alexander the Great or a fucking rapist in some street. It nothing matters. I mean, that's kind of nihilism then, but yeah, pessimism is closer tied to
It
that.
means
But yeah, basically,
it's worse than nothing matters. It's that everything bad will happen anyway. That's kind of the thing.
yeah,
It's that bad things do exist, you know, and that's about all that
yeah,
matters. Because in the end of the day,
yeah,
the bad thing will outweigh the good thing.
yeah. It's like that Schopenhauer's saying like life is some pendulum between pain and boredom. I think he said so. Yeah,
Very
that's
Buddhist.
pessimistic.
It's like rando Buddhism. There's
Yeah,
a guy in our group here who's told us a story at one point about his Memory Man. Memory Man he does music and he's really cool. We'll hopefully at some point have him on again. He's talked about when he was a kid, he went to class. They won an award of gingerbread. They said, go outside to recess and then we'll eat them. They come back to class. Like, I knew this was going to happen. They hid the gingerbread. They're like, oh, they ran away. We have to go look for them. He's like, yeah, right. I bet you they're in their office. And they're like, shh, 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 shh. He goes looking around with them, following this wild gingerbread chase until eventually he gets back to, lo and behold, I mean, like, he has to go through the room first and go back to the room, but they say, go to the office. And in the office, there are the gingerbread men right next to the paddle where they beat kids who have misbehaved. I don't know if you guys still have that in Eastern Europe, but like, you know, America, we've got some weird places still, but they have paddles for the kids. And it was like, do what we say and believe what we say and disbelieve what we tell you to disbelieve, or we'll freaking spank you, you know? And then I find that to be the pessimist gingerbread man. Or Pinocchio. Actually, that was collectivism. Ooh, sorry, keep going. Machiavelli time.
Yeah, okay. We have Machiavellianism, right? Machiavelli was that fucking mastermind who talked a lot about tactics and how you should behave in life so that other people comply to your game and let you end up on top. You should always sleep on your toes and be the first one to strike, and just make sure you outcompete everyone else, and when you do that you will be on top and all the life's pleasures will be given to you.
George
Then we have collectivism.
Before we get to George W. Bush's favorite song is My Sharona, or at least it was in 2001. And Machiavelli's The Prince was his favorite book. So I think of Machiavelli every time we do that. There's another thing, though, because we told the gingerbread story. I'm going to flip it now. There was the Pinocchio story. So you've got a nose that grows every time you lie. Someone had this story in the advanced philosophy meetings. We have to find it. But it's basically like you can use your lying nose to figure out the truth about the world. Because if you don't...
Oh.
Yeah, because even if you don't know the truth, you just say something and see what the repercussions are.
Oh, nice. I mean, that probably has to do more, in logics we differentiate between, regular logics that deals with fact, and then we have doxastic logic which deals with belief. So probably, if you would have a sentence, well, I believe that X is the case, and then you would in fact not believe it, then it would grow. But if it would be like, yeah, the Earth is flat, and you would actually believe it, then probably it wouldn't grow, even though.
Yes, it did.
Okay, then we have collectivism, right? Okay. Well, I mean, collectivism and utilitarianism. How much of a difference? Oh, yeah, of course it is. But let's say the collectivist has a more concrete collective goal that everyone has to work towards, whilst
I think it was optimist.
utilitarianist.
Sorry. You go first. I'll explain my thought.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing more
Okay,
to
well,
add.
so I'd say utilitarianists are cynical because they know that they have to work together. If you think about a rat, a rat's a utilitarian. He lives with a bunch of other rats. Cockroaches. They have to be. They have to do as best as they can so they don't destroy themselves in the process. Collectivism has a certain optimism to it. It's like I've chosen, or I really have become someone who believes that that through working together, we can get more out of it, and that it'll benefit more of us and myself, regardless of whom you ask, to work together, because we can then, I'll have too much rice if I don't share it. You'll have too much water if you don't share it. And we'll all have nothing if we don't figure out how to use these things together, because the things themselves go together.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Okay, then we have the ontology, which is from the Greek word theos, which is obligation or duty, and it's basically the theory that there are some natural, well, not really natural, but some inherent duties or obligations that each autonomous, rational agent has in this world. And the ontological ethic, the most known one would be, well, Kantian ethics. Then you also have the divine command theory. I think that's another deontological ethical system. So yeah, basically we have obligations, and that would be deontology. Then we have egoism. Yeah, just work, whatever. Maybe Hobbesian ethics would be fine here. So might is right. Everyone can work for himself. Depends. Like, are you a universal egoist? Does your egoist theory extend to all agents in the world? Then, if you're a universalist, then you should be like, yeah, he has defeated me, and he's right in taking what he wants for himself. So you should be like, yeah, I'm an egoist and I suffer because other people are better than me, and this is okay. This is as people should be. This is the system that should prevail. But if you're a personal egoist, like just trying to maximize your own good, then maybe you should be like, yeah, I'm weak, but I don't like the fact that because I'm weak, everyone is stealing from me. I want to have something, so I want to fight, so that there's a let's say social safety net, that everyone gets some stuff.
There's a weird distinction between narcissism and egoism, and I think it's that if you're a narcissist, you're only subconsciously an egoist, because you only want your ego to be represented. You think that you've come to terms with things better than anyone else has, and so as a narcissist, you should dictate to the rest of the world based on this new system that you've come up with. Whereas an egoist doesn't necessarily have that narcissism, but they might have a little bit of it because they're like, well, obviously I've learned things that I believe are true, and school has told me I was wrong, and I've proven that they were wrong and I was right in my own experiences. So other people can do the same thing. So we don't need a super ego, fascistic, totalitarian system that equitable, equality. No, we need every person to, I guess in a weird way, I'm kind of an egoist in the sense I think that everyone has something to contribute and that you can't teach them what they have to contribute. In the sense, I'm actually almost an anti-Janteist in that way. I'm also a pro-Jante. I'm very confused about myself. I'm Jante curious, but egoism is still essential, right? I mean, we need it.
What's a Janteist? I've never.
Oh, Jante. The law of Jante is the Scandinavian concept. You know what? Let's pull up the law of Jante. Law of Jante is 13 laws that are Scandinavian laws and codes. Look how happy she looks to be alive. She probably gets no tips to work. There's no music playing in the store she works. And even though she's, relatively pretty, everybody's relatively pretty. She's been demoralized by equality. I love it. Anyway, the law of Jante says you are not to think you are. Let me get this a little bigger because it's 10 rules of the state. Have you ever seen the Lego movie? It's really all about this. Everything is awesome so long as you're part of a team. The law of Jante says you're not to think you are anything special. You're not to think you are as good as us. You're not to think you are smarter than us. You're not to convince yourself that you are better than us. You're not to think you know more than us. You're not to think that you're more important than us. You're not to think that you're good at anything. You're not to laugh at us. You're not to think anyone cares about you, and you're not to think you can teach us anything. And there's actually
it's us society.
This is, yes, exactly. This is society. This is Scandinavian society. The way that they tell American kids, you can be anything. You're so special. You're the greatest. Your generation's going to change. They don't do that in Denmark. They're just like, you are the product of the Vikings, and you will eat and you will sleep and you will enjoy when and what we tell you. And you're not to think that we need you, because we don't. And if we did, we'd kill you, which is like 40 in managerial theory. Like, don't ever have an essential part that you can't, fire him. Get 10 new guys to replace him right away. I want him out within the hour. If you need him, I want him gone. That's Janteism. It's like the law.
I'm Jante curious as well.
Right? It freaked me out because I went to Scandinavia. I'm like, this is great. This is horrifying. It's not American. It's un-American as heck. But it's awesome. It's way better because the kids who think that they're special, why bother? And then these kids, they're like, well, I mean, at the end of the day, they try as hard as they can to be good enough. So there's some interesting things about Janteism, and you can find out more by looking at the Nordic country law of Jante. Janteloven is what it's called. I'm sure if you Google translate it from the Danish page, it's even better. But they do very strange things because of this law. For instance, one time I'm in Denmark, and this kid is stripped naked, and he's tied at night to a phone pole, and there's cinnamon thrown on him. And I'm like, why? I'm like, well, he's 25. Like, what does that mean? Like, well, when you're 25 here, if you're not married yet, we tie you to a pole and we throw cinnamon on you. And if you're 30 and you're not married, it's chili peppers. Like, we go pretty hard. It's like, okay. And it's clearly the bonfire where the word, faggots of wood come from. It's like they're still doing the same ritual, but it doesn't mean a hate crime or anything because there's no individuality necessary for that ego to appear. So it's a hazing as part of a ritual in order for everyone to become part of a more equitable society. I mean, that it's really interesting. And they played out in the Lego movie. Legos are from Denmark because the main character's got all these other characters like, I want to build a boat that's a bunk bed. But he's like, I'm not that special. I'm not that creative. But he's the only one who can follow instructions. So he's the hero of the Legos, right? Law of Jante. That's basically it.
Oh, okay, interesting. Was not familiar with this concept. Should definitely read up on it. I mean, well, this is a Danish concept, right? Do they have like talent shows in Denmark and Is it less frequent there that people come to make a fool of themselves?
Do they have
on
what?
that show?
Do they have what shows? Game shows?
Talent shows, right? Where a lot of
Talent shows.
people come to, fool of themselves and make a fool of themselves and
You know what?
Disillusioned.
Where's our Danish audience? Somebody tell us about the weirdest Danish talent shows. I'm sure that they have to have something weird.
Yeah.
Def Not Dubay says yes, they do. When I was in Denmark, I didn't watch a lot of TV, but I did. I did meet a lot of philosophers and musicians and things whom did whatever. Like they did Christmas albums that sold well to moms in America, and it's like there's a really normative quality to Denmark. Everyone's trying. A lot of people are trying to fit in. Like if I bought a black and white outfit at H&M to fit in. I was just like, okay, I'm wearing too many colors, and I never felt that way in my life. I'm always like, it's okay to be different and weird, but there's a really serious amount of rigidity and uniformity to the culture. Adam and Eve naked dating show says definitely not Eric Dubay. I'm gonna hope you're lying about that because it's more fun if you are. Good to see you, Eric. But Adam and Eve naked dating show. We'll have to look into it more. It sounds pretty good. We have Naked and Afraid, which is like the ultimate American show. Like, are you?
Yeah. What is it about?
Oh well, 30 days in the woods, naked man and another woman naked, and they meet for the first time, and they get to spend 30 days naked and afraid and hungry until they figure out how to survive or give up. And they drop them off in random places. I have a friend does sound on it. It's just, I was like, dude, put me in that show. I could totally do
it. Wow.
Naked and Afraid.
Yeah. Do they? How frequent is it that they end up fucking?
Oh yeah, that's not my first question of the show, to be honest. If you watch it, but it's variable. I mean, you'd be surprised. You'd think that should. I mean, it should be. Don't get me wrong. Like my question is, how long before they starve? Because usually what happens is they end up giving up because they're in, a place where there's not enough food. The dude's a little bit bigger. He can digest his own body fat. The girls are already fit for society all the time. So they don't have any body fat and they start to die, and they start hating each other. And
I was not aware they put him in actual harsh environments. I thought it's more of a fun, quirky show.
No, that'd be great. That would be
there in nature.
We should do that. There should be what's that called? Real world, but the naked world. I bet you Playboy's already done it in the 90s, but we could make it philosophical. Philosophical and naked, the show. Send us money. All right.
I mean, that's a lot of philosophy in sex.
Yeah, it's true. I think that a lot of the time, to be honest, in regards to your actual question, when people have sex on the show, it is because of randism. They're with each other. They believe that because they're working on a project together. You look at mammals picking things out of each other's hair. Look at monkeys picking things out of each other's hair in a zoo, and you can see how quickly it progresses based on how dangerous the environment is and how likely it is that they will be able to work together collectively to defeat the environment. If she thinks he can defeat the environment, a lot of the time she will start to groom him, and that's the beginning of when sexual relations. That's from that's more of an anthropologist view of it, but that's what I see.
Yeah. Okay.
You Kant will universal I may have not seen the whole meme. What's going on?
Yeah, the bottom is missing.
Oh, bummer. Here.
Yeah.
Will universalizable maxims, utilitarianism? No, I don't think I will. This kind of looks like a smoking victim version or burn victim version of Joe Biden. But what is it that he's saying right now about a lack of universal maxims? And what are universals, and can they exist?
Yeah, first of all, this is a meme template where the guy goes like, "No, I don't think I will." So I think what was kind of the joke is that the equivocation between real universal maxims and how you actually get to say, "No, I don't think I will." Bam, But Kant has this idea of with work. always perform in the world as if your action can be something that everyone should do all the time. So if or at least in the same circumstance. So if you're gonna go around and lie, I mean, would that be a basis for a good society if everyone would lie? Well, if not, then you shouldn't lie. So will the universal maxims think about what can be universalized and behave so that you can fit in with everyone behaving the same as you, and basically the golden rule in some sort, right? To only do to others what you would want to be done to you. But yeah, what are those universal maxims? How are they deducible? That seems a bit more, well, a bit less straightforward as Kant thought. I mean, yeah, I mean, sometimes what if a murder comes knocking on your door and he's like, "Hey, is your mother in? Where is she? Where is she hiding?" Maybe lying would be a acceptable option in this scenario, even though lying is wrong according to, well, it shouldn't be a universal maxim, but maybe it should be in this circumstance. And
Well,
can't make some.
we have a Freemasonic.
Yeah.
There's a Freemason alternative to lying, right? You just don't, like you say, get off my porch. Someone comes, ICE shows up and says, you have illegal immigrants in your home. You say, get off my porch. Because, I mean, if you don't want to answer them a lie, you just don't have, you have the Fifth Amendment. Freemasons have made it possible for people to not answer so that they don't have to lie. And then you just know that you don't know everything. Well, you already know you don't know everything. So it doesn't really affect the divine plan of Kant. if you just continue not knowing everything. I mean, it depends, but it's like it's not technically a lie. It's like, oh, I'm not telling you. I promise. Like that. That seems like a way out of the lie.
Yeah, that is true. It does seem like a way out. Let's think if there's some other example. I will do that while we look at some other memes.
Yeah, we can.
So that is how I feel when I arrive at unwanted consequences of my ethical position. I mean, it's scary. It's like, well, fuck. I don't want to be here, but all my argumentation leads me to this conclusion. What should I do?
I'm ready. I'm unready. That's basically. I feel like he's kind of decided in this that reality. Squidward has decided in this that reality is beyond his perception or beyond his capacity to really understand. But I also noticed that this alien here looks like the alien from Fantastic Planet, the Planet Sauvage. I don't know what you'd call it. Let me find a.
Oh, I don't know actually. Let's show.
The Fantastic Planet is the Planet Sauvage. These guys, have you seen this movie? This is a movie to see if you ever get the chance. Fantastic Planet is about these giant aliens that are blue and telepathic, and they come down and they pick up a woman and drop her down and kill her from about 100 feet, and she's just playing with it, Then she takes the child and she makes the child her pet mouse. And they're telepathic and into Camus. I mean, this is a 1973 French animation that you should definitely see. But it gets pretty deep into are we being played with? Are we being played with by God? Is it not God? Are they just? I mean, in this circumstance, it's a little girl who's essentially this person's God, and they don't love the aliens that control them. Even though the aliens love them, they don't really have love in them. They just they're like, oh, this is a toy to play with. So Le Planète Sauvage, very important movie by René Alou. Pretty trippy film.
It looks trippy as hell. Nice.
Oh,
okay. Definitely will check out.
So good. And anything he does too. Gandahar is another good philosophy animation. Gandahar is all about I guess you would say kind of it's a very Kafkaesque world, and then they have this Camus question about ethics in terms of these robots are coming back in time. I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's just it's more it's just a fuck of philosophy all at once. But
okay, I love that description. Nice. Okay. How come I never heard of it? Looks iconic as fuck.
Yeah, you probably were busy reading actual books. I don't know, man. Maybe you missed out on a couple cartoons. You'll be okay. You'll find time. Maybe break your ankle skiing, then you'll be able to watch some weird cartoons. But this is a good meme for that, because he looks like, it's not just that he's in this metamorphic futurism, it's also that he's under control of something bigger. These personifications.
Mm-hmm.
This one's kind of adorable. I love hipsters. I do. Claims to be a hedonistic act utilitarian, still has 2 kidneys. This is a bad luck rhyme.
This is like, checkmate utilitarianist.
I had a cousin who had 3 kidneys, and he definitely drank until, one of them wasn't any good. So it all worked out. All right. Well, I'm going to go back to, I think we did most of those, and how are you on time? It's pretty late there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 11:30. I still have some time.
All right, let's do a couple more of the memes from Advanced Philosophy memes, just so that people get it. I want to show you guys some things too. So first off, in terms of files, you could upload files. Here's Hegel and Socialization. This is a document that Christian Montag actually wrote for their school, and it's awesome. I would recommend getting a download of that. And like I said before, the Discord, we've got literature like out. We've gigabytes and gigabytes of documents. Here's one right here: philosophy memes, academic philosophy. Let's see.
Interesting one.
Yeah, I like the Plato's cave idea. I like Plato's rave. I wanted to find that one next, because then there's lights in the cave and it's dark outside, and it made sense.
But you see the suggestion that academic philosophy is blinded by details, with the shadows, by the particular puzzles that they engage in, while somebody that does philosophy more as a...
They're producing... The shadow is the Jungian shadow, which the plebs are watching and they're actually learning from. And then there's these who are escaping THX 1138, and they're like, whoa, this is weird. Where's the curve? Just kidding. And then you go down. This one's kind of funny to me. Can you tell us more about man and his symbols? Get it? I mean, because it's Jungian. But this is a protester wearing an ISIS shirt on the CBS. This one's kind of sexy, right? Like, if I remove all things from myself, who am I? Vapor Sharia. I thought it was good. Let's go a little bit further down to... Oh, this is funny. We have an episode, of course, where we interview Wendy Shaw from this show. And so me trying to politely explain to unconscious family friends why I can't be around them. You're transmitting out so many low vibrational frequencies right now that literally I might die in your presence. This is kind of like what a lot of people end up feeling, like they're not able to connect with anyone anymore after they become into these things, into these thoughts. When she calls you Epicurus instead of Epictetus.
Oof, I don't know the English pronunciation.
We're having a hard time with English. It's not fun. It's not a fun language. How about this? Is kind of funny. Plato, Nietzsche, Freud, Derrida, Jordan Peterson. I'm pretty sure Jordan Peterson's just looking at Derrida's opus. Anyway, there's the philosophy meme. That's pretty good. I made this one earlier. You are born into an existence that deals first with language. So this is a question I have for you, actually. We could go into this for a second. Language. Elon Musk recently said that you can imagine a future with a neural lace where you plug in my brain to your brain, and let's say we share experiences. So maybe I have, and this is again a quote from Elon Musk, maybe I am a more open person. I have I have a sexy girl, sexy experience. I record it and I send it to you, and then you can experience, and all my friends, they can experience the exact same recording. What are the problems with this? Not to harp on Chomsky, but linguistics, right? Because do you have the same perspectives without language? And is the raw data, is that really, can that work? I mean,
yeah, I mean, fuck, that's I mean, so you would I mean that sounds so like even in a like okay, let's run a thought experiment. We have you record your sensations in a let's say in a succession of phenomenological facts about where well what you felt, where you felt it, how it felt to feel that, and then another person goes into the experience machine, has relives your moment. Could that work?
Right. And what would you get out of it? Because if data is basically, I mean, imagine you don't have a word for sounds, right? Part of your brain has to develop to make a place to put the sensorial information there so that you're like, okay, well, this isn't just light. This is sound. And this is loud sound. This is quiet. Like before you have descriptions of things, how can you even process them? And like, don't we, I mean, are we able to get away from language at all? Like, sorry to expand on the experiment without even, we need to keep it small.
No, you definitely went into the right direction. Yeah, communication without language. I mean, how is the way in which we understand our minds and our brain? I think there seems to be a sense of our brains are plastic. They adapt to your experience, and I'm not so sure that different adult people you could run the same function in two brains and get the same reactions. I think there could be quite different reaction to it. Like like you have one person that was I don't know, he was a clothes designer his whole life, and another person that was let's say a makeup artist his whole life. Let's say that, and yeah, their experience of things will vary quite a lot because their brain has learned to pick out the relevant details in the world, and the relevant details in the world differed for those two people. And I'm not sure how translating this would really work. I mean, maybe it would be better to just, have a virtual reality, like you would have a scenario, a artificial intelligence would map all the details that was what were going all around, what were going on all around you, and would reconstruct this event in which you were, and then it would run this simulation for another person, so he can relive it again, not from your point of view, but from his own point of view. Because I think that it would be like if I see the world through your eyes, it's going to be a quite different experience. Maybe one that I won't be able to completely grasp because your brain behaves differently. Different parts of the world are relevant to you, right? Like all we see basically is just one tiny dot of or visual perception, for example, and all the rest, like the facts where this tiny dot has to harbor itself. That has to do a lot with your personality and your experience of the world. And maybe if I would see the world through your eyes, maybe I couldn't even comprehend it because, or it would be so different that I couldn't really take much out of it. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's like this is another question about the difference in language. I think earlier at some point I was thinking I thought we talked maybe about this Lacan and Havelock. So Lacan talks about the value of linguistics. So we start with symbols that we can describe water, but then eventually lack of water becomes need for water, becomes thirsty, and we have these abstract concepts. And eventually we get to a point where Havelock shows up when he says that the Athenian mythology is an expansion of consciousness because it's allowing us to wrestle with ideas that we couldn't wrestle with before in a more primal state where we were thinking about thirst. And this also is where the frontal lobe and the different cortices, like the MTV, the MTGVB, TB, part of the brain starts to develop in the back. So you take kids that in the 1800s to the 1990s were raised without families by wolves. They have, very similar to kids who play video games, more response and less grammar. They don't understand grammar. They don't understand how to build up on these concepts and to use them in hypotheticals. So we have a bigger one, and it looks like humans can develop that even more, because obviously it was shrank. You know, it starts out shrunk as a child, as a baby, and doesn't develop unless we develop it. If we had more understandings of language, which it looks like we did from this Havelockian Athenian period, we could do the same thing with simulatory experiences. So all of a sudden you could develop your hippocampus to have understanding of different timelines, because you can see in a computer system what the consequences are to these actions. Right? Mm-hmm. So if we do that, we could expand our brains from language, not just from neural lacing, which would be an interesting idea. Could we, are there concepts that we haven't been able to perceive yet? And if we were able to perceive these concepts we haven't perceived, will that change humanity? You know, just to be able to think in relative terms that we haven't thought of yet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, like actually, you know how there's a very interesting thing that has been brought up by Gestalt psychologists, the fact that we see, well, what is the world that you see? It's a two-dimensional projection of the visual impressions that you get on your retina, right? And your brain automatically, because it has learned how objects look from its own other sides, it has learned how to construct a vague idea of the three-dimensional space around you, right? And so one idea is like we have virtual games that deal with the fourth dimension in space, and we have games that try to represent this fourth dimension. And one question here is that if you would let children play with a game that would take place in a fourth dimensional space, well, a space that is made from four spatial dimensions, would they actually gain some, well, would they actually be able to make out the patterns that constitute this fourth dimensional space? Would they actually be able to orient themselves in the fourth dimension? That is a question that, well, I mean, yeah, maybe they would be able to. Maybe they would see the patterns after engaging in a virtual game that would be made of four spatial dimensions, and maybe that would be of huge. Well, I mean, they could think in four spatial dimensions, basically something that we can't even conceive of. And maybe without training, they would, with enough training, they would get to actually be able to engage in the fourth dimension. And yeah, maybe that's like things that we could, that there's a potential here, I think, because even the third dimension, right? You never engage with it. I mean, you engage with it, but it's never given to you directly. You're only seeing a two-dimensional space that you have. Your mind has to process the data and construct a three-dimensional space for you. So maybe the same could be done with the fourth dimension. And maybe,
we need more Pac-Man. The Pac-Man meme, really, I think this is the closest I could come to a Pac-Man meme, because you've got Pac-Man as Nietzsche, and then you've got God as the player, you know, and they're playing Pac-Man at each other. And so God and Nietzsche are saying each other are dead, yet they're both alive in our concepts, you know, in our dreams and ideologies and philosophies. Both God exists and Nietzsche exists. So really what they are is they're forever fighting in this constant conflict. And the conflict isn't really that God doesn't exist or that Nietzsche doesn't exist. I think we all know that both concepts are concepts, so concepts exist. But Nietzsche is saying that the idea that he's like, the way God says that people get old and die, Nietzsche is saying God's getting old and dying. And the idea of God as a single parent who writes books doesn't work anymore. And as time goes on, we're going to have to assume the role that we're putting on God, because God's going to have to do bigger things. I think that's a weird way to look at Nietzscheism that actually it's more inclusive to expansive concepts and Chardinian Omega Point. I think that's a big miss. Do you think that Nietzscheism is inherently nihilistic and that there's no place for expanded consciousness? I mean, thinking about transhumanism, do you think that there's a place for it?
I mean, even the thought that Nietzsche said. First of all, here is another Nietzsche meme. Aljoša, can you show this on the screen? It's basically, one is Nietzsche. That podcast with Elon Musk where he saw a deer and he just kept laughing for it for minutes and nobody knew what the fuck it was so funny for him. So yeah, this is another variation that I found very funny.
Is that a dead deer at the bottom of Elon Musk's pool?
Yeah, like there was a meme that Elon Musk saw on the podcast one. It's not in Elon Musk's pool, but he was shown the meme. He was shown a dead deer in the bottom of the pool, and then he just started laughing, and he laughed for 2 minutes, and the host was like, "What the fuck is going on? Why is he laughing?" And that became a meme then, like Elon Musk laughing at a dead deer. But it's Scott and Nietzsche now.
Well, Elon Musk, just like Jim Morrison from The Doors, really liked. They both got copies of Nietzsche, like young. Jim Morrison got, instead of a car, he asked for his complete collection of Nietzsche. So it's weird how much it plays into. I want to say into philosophy, but obviously it's more than that. Here's a meme I think that offended some people, and we love trolling to the extent that as long as it adds some positivity. This is an interesting one. When you wanted to see who led Germany in the 1940s, couldn't find any stats. Impossible. The archives are incomplete. I'm sorry on behalf of anyone in Germany watching. I'm sorry if I just made this program illegal there, but we're kidding. We're actually obviously what's wrong with this High Life magazine, because clearly it's not true. We still are talking about it. It's still the image exists. If anything, there's a mystique around it because of a lack of symbols. Without the statues of this short little funny guy with a funny mustache who looks like Charlie Chaplin, he's been deified by some and turned into a demonized, but really it's just a dude who made a lot of decisions. A lot of them were terrible. And, when he was a kid, he was a vegetarian, and when he was old, he was killing people. So like at somewhere along the line, you have to look at the humanity of a character. And if it's absent, are we not likely to repeat history? Is that not what we're doing? Or what do you think? What does this really mean?
Oh, we're asking the big questions now. Yeah, definitely it's not. There's this edge, this golden path that you're trying to go into, right? Not let dangerous ideas spread amongst the desperate population, and also not try to make talking about it illegal so that people have to go talk about it underground into some echo chamber of their beliefs. So yeah, I guess everyone's trying to find the golden mean between those two. That sounds reasonable, but yeah, that's often I guess what people choose is to just make it illegal to talk about those stuff, and yeah, that's dangerous, definitely.
Yeah, there's a lot that we can lose in the question, because it becomes, do we gain anything from hiding information? Mao Zedong said, to read too many books is dangerous, right? So the Cultural Revolution, in his mind was you get rid of all the dangers and then everything innocent just arises. But in a similar vein, here's an APM meme that we actually did, or I did this one. I thought it was funny. You got the picture of Stalin. You got the picture of Grigory, the guy who was his police chief.
Where do you have Stalin? I only see a lake. What is that?
Oh, you don't see the picture here? You not see this?
No, I'm joking. I'm messing with you.
Oh, giggity. Oh, that was good. Oh, that was a stoic delivery, sir. All right. So here's,
sorry for deceiving you like this. Okay, go on.
And then here's the future, right? And this, by the way, took me a minute. I had to get another drawing and put this together. But come on, look at that. That is really what life is, right? We start by removing the problem.
Soviet level Photoshop.
we remove the thank you. That's what I mean, right? It was like real classic airbrushing. Thank you. You know?
I see it.
But it's true. This is the solution. This is the problem. This is the solution. This is the final solution. Because what you've done is you remove everything from the frame until all that's left, and then you don't remember what happened here. You look at this frame and it's not even obvious that there was, a struggle between two men that changed the world. That I think is the vapor Sharia that's happening. There's another good. Well, you go on for a second while I like to look for the other one I'm looking for.
Okay. Well, you asked something about Nietzsche and transhumanism just before we went to this idea. Like, wasn't it Nietzsche who said man is a rope tied between beast and the Übermensch, right? I mean, it's not the concept of the Übermensch. I mean, quite transhumanistic. I was when I read Nietzsche, I read him in a very transhumanistic way. Maybe that's I mean that's quite a maybe anachronistic reading of him, but I couldn't help but read him in these terms, and I always engaged with Nietzsche as if he's trying to put forth some transhumanistic ideas, as in humanity right now not being at the stage at which it could be, and that we have to transform ourselves into something higher. He was, of course, talking about idea-wise. So get the hammer of nihilism and destroy the building upon you rest. Get rid of all of the ideas that constitute the past, and from the ground of nihilism, try to build up something new, something that you yourself will create and follow, and you will be the Übermensch, the man who has killed himself in order to become his real self. So I mean that would be quite. I've always read him in a quite transhumanistic way, but how did we come from Nietzsche to this? I don't know anymore.
we do jump from, it's called memetics, man. You just copy and paste. But let's go to another one for that exact. Heraclitus, unity of opposites, and that's where you start to put on the makeup. Hegel's dialectics, that's where you start to look pretty. And then Jean-Pierre Faye's horseshoe theory, which is like, you can't help but the omega point just comes back. It's very Chardinian. And then boom, there you are. Once you mention Chardin, socialist techno-fascism, or I don't really agree. What I would say is it goes more like, this is our APM version. Start out as feels guy, and you hit some religion or theology, and it hits you into philosophy, because religion and theology are kind of presuppositions of philosophy. But every philosophy is a bias that starts out with like a thought that goes on, whether there is or is not a formulative system. But then there's a way it should be. Once you admit that it isn't necessarily that way, and there's other ways, then you're like, well, but it should be ideology, And then once you get past ideology, you're like, but it already is. And then you can become comfortable in metaphysics. But then when you're thinking about metaphysics, it still pulls you right back in. And you're like, well, quantum biology, cosmogenesis is clearly a thing. And then that gets you into bio-Leninism, which leads you right back into Jesuits every single time. And then the liberation theology ends up with Teilhard Chardin at the noosphere point and the omega point. Now, if this isn't the weirdest, deepest meme I've seen in like a month, I don't know. But I love any meme with bio-Leninism in it, and that goes to that's just a goof. I like it. It's good. But does anyone get this? Does anyone get what we're saying here from the struggle? I mean, obviously there's a meme archetype here, which is the growth and progress. But
so
on the other,
you have a man who is, like it is said that metaphysics comes from the man's unsatisfaction with the world. You have to find some higher world, something to give meaning to the suffering, I guess. So you come up with religion, probably some religion, I mean, hopefully some religion that fetishizes your suffering and makes you the slave, the victim, makes the real winner of history, so that you have Christianity. So then you try to go further with your argumentation and logics, and suddenly you try to get one thing. One day you're trying to root out inconsistencies in your belief. The other moment you have destroyed the basis upon your whole project rests, and that's the enlightenment, and then nihilism. Once the enlightenment philosophers were like, fuck, we're losing God. We just wanted to justify God, but now we have nothing. Then we have ideology. Then that is, basically our current times, like history-wise. We are like, yeah, everything is ideology. We pretend as if we're making some objective philosophical thought, but as soon as we leave the doors of academia, as Zizek says, we are knee deep in ideology. Basically, you go to the toilet and your society has determined whether you're gonna see your own. I don't know. My English is not good enough to know a better word for shit. Yeah, and like Zizek wrote this book on toilets, right? And he just wanted to show like how the society in which we live on, the design of the toilet was just a reflection of the society in which the culture in which you grew up. For example, in Germany, you have this toilet that makes the sea, it contains your feces, and in France, for example, you have just a hole and it disappears. And you can pretend all you want that you're doing objective thought, but as soon as you go to the toilet, your culture has already determined whether you're going to be faced with your own mortality, with your own shit, or whether you're just going to be able to ignore it. But yeah, metaphysics, and from then on, I failed to understand the meme. So that's where you have to take over.
Yeah, then it gets pretty weird. Once you do metaphysics, that's like where I'm from, is California, right? So you've got this sort of like everything exists, and like even we've created a virtual scenario to help people explain that in gamification with the internet, because originally you didn't get taxed the same way on the internet. People had free trade, intellectual property was exchanged freely in the internet forum. I mean, the internet was neat. Like, it was a cool thing before it was destroyed in 2012 by Skynet. But when you think about it, everything exists in some way, somewhere, especially in your mind. But in terms of, if you put an artificial intelligent consciousness into a robot, or you put them into a virtual reality, it's not that big of a difference to them, because they're just maneuvering within circumstances. So metaphysics kind of pulls you into the quantum biology cosmogenesis, which is this idea that you are being created all around you by this destinial point. The omega point is, inferred in this, that there's a thing that's like, if you look at DNA messes with the idea of chaotic evolution, because it's this really brilliant, intelligent thing that, even though it's more or less evolving, it's already pretty sophisticated. It already has most of the information it needs, and it even has error correction checking systems. So it's not the chaos that people really want it to be. This is, I think Master Andrew talked about the timepiece being created on the beach from a sandstorm concept. It's not a sandstorm. It's a very sophisticated, DNA is a very sophisticated system of cosmogenesis, which continues to grow based on already starting out. More arguably, DNA is more sophisticated and advanced than humanity is, because DNA itself can change in environments and it can survive all kinds of these circumstances. So
that sounds like Pelly's clock, like the watchmaker analogy.
Yeah, I mean, it's not to take away from the watchmaker analogy, because it's a big part of it. But the thing is, it's like there's a destinial kind of way things have to form also, right? Like if you take 72,000 viruses and you put them all in heat banks. At Stanford, we did this one time. You get down to about 47 viruses that work. So like most of them will not survive. And the ones that evolve will evolve into the same ways, because there's really so many shapes. There's so many ways that things can work. And there's a lot of ways things don't work. And so those things just don't happen. So there's a certain order and a symmetry that starts to appear. Then you get into bioleninism, which is like, okay, and I think this is funny because you start out with the brain's getting bigger, and eventually the heart chakra is opening, the throat chakra shooting out of the face. And then you get into the kidneys and the bladder. And so the kidneys for bioleninism is an interesting, I think that's a really interesting choice, because it's like the kidneys are processing the system for everything else. And it's realizing that everything needs to have a certain amount of equity if you want the whole system to run. If you want the political body to function, you can't disrespect the feet. You have to let them sit up sometime. And it becomes that even though things aren't equal, biology is not the equalizer. Cosmogenesis is. So DNA is the equalizer. So as time goes on, DNA can continue to exist, or it can protest, and the entire body can protest at once. So DNA has to start to evolve to make a system that works better. But once you start trying that, you're back to ideology in a sense. So Jesuitism, and yes, that's the cervix. And I think that's, come on, that's good. Like if the Jesuits are the cervix, then I'm your oyster. But this idea that the Jesuits are like liberation theology. So they're just taking the same rules as bioleninism. So kind of this is where it starts to recursive, right? Because it's like, well, we've already defeated the value of the brain. You know, the feel-good guy, he exists because he's reached this great like point. But what's the point of his existence? Well, it really is equity, reproduction. And so reproduction, well, really the brain starts over again because it becomes all about the reproductive system. So survival is more important than fucking. But once you start beating survival, then reproduction becomes essential. And so then you've got this maternal feminist quality, which I think we'll get into in the next meme because it gets more edgy. But it's ironic. The ironic response is Teilhard Chardin, Noosphere Omega Point, because he was the first one to really discuss this concept of bioleninism, neo-Jesuitism, neo-Catholicism, like the Carbon Show. It really comes back, the internet, Noosphere, all of it comes back to Teilhard Chardin and his ideas around geology and how atomic socialization is a form of worship, and worship is evolution. And so kind of giving this de-anthropomorphic spin to the universe is really more human-centric in that sense, because the human is the ultimate form of DNA, which makes Jesus sort of his metaphor for the perfect use of DNA, and which is all of these different like siphonophoric jellyfish working together to make a single superorganism. And then humanity in and of itself, humanity is a church. It's a giant immortal thing that, you know, it's not necessarily immortal, but it doesn't have to die, because every time a person dies, more people live. So if you were to be an artificial intelligence looking at humanity, you'd look at humanity as this long-lived single thing with different, you know, every finger is a face of humans that are just, over time, humans are living and dying, and it's like dragons' faces. They're coming, like humanity is one thing in that sense. And so we are this sort of thing that's going a place, but that place, well, we look at it, it's to restart the whole system over again. We want to create new worlds, or we want to make a better world. It gets us right back to this guy who feels the same way. So it seems like a Mobius strip. That's my best interpretation.
Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah, it's a little far out. This one's just here to offend people. I'm kidding, but I think it's worth mentioning. I like this meme a lot. This was our first really like, hey, how dare you? A bunch of people got really angry at this meme. Now, with complete respect to all human beings and animals and the environment itself, because I actually would say you should probably think about the environment, not just humans. But humanity-wise, feminism is sexism. Actually, we can go even further if we want to use a Wilhelm Reich definition. Does sexism in this case mean something negative or bad? No, right? It's not actually saying that. But what it is saying is that advocacy for your identity politic group is reinforcement of the social identity that's been created. or if you actually believe that there is a biological polarized difference between man and woman. So what do you think? Is this right? Is this wrong? Is this chauvinistic in some way? Is it saying that women shouldn't or that men shouldn't advocate for the feminist spirit? Like where's the edge? And is there any truth to this?
Yeah, I mean, depends on semantics a bit. I mean, yeah, as you said, it is sexism in this sense that is, focusing on the, well-being of one sex that has been, it has been deprivileged, let's say. But yeah, to say that it's sexism at every extra steps,
It's edgy. I know you're like, I'm afraid to say this. I don't want to get put in a camp for, but I hear you. I mean, it's like, the thing is, it's like, am I allowed to say what's true? Because it's 2020 and I don't know what time it is, but basically it's not wrong. It's just that it seems mean-spirited, but it doesn't mean to be mean-spirited, really. It's just kind of, I think, especially because of the context of Rick and Morty, because the context of the meme is that he's done it himself. So he sees how it is the way it is because he's done it himself. And at first he justified it, but now he doesn't justify it anymore. He knows that it's not right. So
interesting. I failed to see the Rick and Morty connection, even though they're right here. I just focused on the words. Interesting.
That's how they get people.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
And then the irony is he's saying, the kid says, eek Baba Durkle, someone's going to get laid when they get to college. It's like that's the cartoon moment that's happening, because he's realizing like that sociologically, like this is just slavery with extra steps is what he's saying. Yeah. And then they're all like, they make fun of him for realizing it. I feel like there's some levels to it. I don't hate it as much as some of the people did. I had to say it.
I see. I mean, I see why people got offended. I mean, that's quite that's because that's an argument that people make, like, oh, you're only for women now, blah, blah, blah. They're completely failed to see the idea of feminism and just reduce it to, they etymologically reduce it, or terminologically just reduce it as if it's just let's women rule the world without any kind of social context.
Reductionism is disrespect in a weird way, because if you reduce things to a level that they're comprehensible, then you have to do it by removing so much of the feelings and the emotions and the experiences of people. So it shouldn't be reduced the way it is. But at the same time, if it said maybe, and that's okay, or something like that, I don't know whether it would have made it more offensive or less, because you're not saying that you don't advocate for them. But it's just that it is what it is. And it's like, well, if you're not allowed, I mean, I think right around this time, there's a number of people posting, well, if you're a male, you don't really understand feminism, you shouldn't have a voice on the subject. And it doesn't matter how many books that you've read on feminism or read by female authors or experiences you've had with women, because you just simply are excluded from this by your sex. And not every feminist by any stretch believes this. And of course, there are multiple generations of there's third waves are very different than fourth waves that are coming out, which I would consider Sharia feminism. But second wave feminists, first wave feminists, completely different kind of goal. So as time's gone on, the question becomes, do we still need advocacy? And I answer we do, for individual groups that have been systemically created. And is there a point when we can move past it? Or do we always need this? Will we always need sexism, chauvinism, feminism, men's rights movement, the black power, white powers coming now? I mean, like, is this a product of this? And is there a way out of it? Or do we need it?
Okay, so first of all, that Rick and Morty reference, I mean, that's nice. That's a nice layer. Like, oh my god. Like, so basically, what they're trying to say is, yeah, that you've got the mayor who has been systematically, well, engaging in some sexism, and now he's explaining to that other guy that, yeah, to the women, he's explaining, yeah, well, you're just doing your sexism. I mean, I completely fail to see this layer. I mean, that's just nice. That completely shifts the meme in my eyes. Like like almost like a gestalt switch going on here. Because yeah, I thought that this meme is probably a bit of a provocation. Uh, yeah, but now with that explanation, I mean, it completely changes. Completely changes. So yeah, what was your question again?
I guess, yeah. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I blew that. That's interesting. I mean, that's interesting to me. That, like, you of all people, because like if that's what you get just now, what the hell were normal laymen's thinking when they saw this meme? I mean, because there's a lot of people get real angry about memes, but clearly it's a lack of layers, I think. But okay, so my question was, if identity politics must exist at this point because of systemic oppression that's fabricated it, then and then that's an if, right? Because it could be that biology really, like lobsters, Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
It could just really be that people are feminine and masculine based on polarity of electricity. There's no reason that energy doesn't precede matter, so that it could just be that there's a positive and a negative flow of ions. That, I mean, honestly, Wilhelm Reich could be on it. But assuming that there really is this human-created, fabricated system of oppression, and again, it could just be enforced by humans. But if we have this system right now, we might still need advocacy for sexism. We might still need feminists. We might still need Black Lives Matter. We might still need all these things because of what has existed in the past. The question is, do we still need it now, and will we still need it forever? Is there a point when we can move past all of this stuff and we can all be on a level, loving playing field where we all hear each other? Or is that, what does that take? How long are we going to be stuck here?
I see. I mean, I would love to believe that is the case, that the plane is just gonna get leveled and we can proceed to some, well, everyone to a society where there's gonna not gonna be a lot of arbitrary factors that will determine how we will get treated. But yeah, are we getting there? I mean, yeah, I'd like to think so. I really like. I'm not strong on like social philosophy, but yeah, right now I would say yes. We would need, first of all, some advocacy for minorities, because I think that there's, on some level of ideology, there's still a lot of ideas that are deeply rooted in the way, in our zeitgeist, in the way we perceive the world, we perceive ourselves and other people, and that those ways in which we look at the world and are like stem from a let's say ideological standpoint of sexism, racism, that it's sometimes hard to see that we are still engaging in some behavior that could be classified as sexist and racist, and that's sometimes worth to, even though you might feel as if, like, let's say, moral catastrophe is behind you, there might still one be going on, and you just fail to see from your current standpoint that it is going on. So that's the idea of, yeah, maybe there should be some more flexibility and openness to, well, to the idea that your ideology should be examined again, and you should examine the ideas in your head and maybe let um, remain open, give the opposition, the advocates for minorities, a bit of what is it called? Um, you know, what is it called? Just give them some charitable attitude, the benefit of the doubt, let's say. Um, or benefit of the doubt is not really the right word that I'm fishing for here, but yeah, just give them some benefit that they're um, to remain open to their ideas and engage in them properly. So yeah, as long as we do that, we might strive. I mean, we might be going into the direction where the problems, the tensions in our society might be, I mean, not all of them, obviously, but at least identity-wise might be uh, dissoluted, and we can move on. But yeah, that's the best we can do, I guess. Remain open and remain open to.
What are some of the consequences, negative consequences of that? Do you think that that trying to reverse racism and sexism is reinforcing it? I mean, now you've got white supremacists, or well, white nationalists at least, right? And you have Black Lives Matter. Isn't that kind of directly related to, instead of it being we should all be working together to stop other people from coming into our neighborhoods and killing us and taking, and getting insurance on their Wendy's so they can burn them down in our neighborhoods? Maybe we're actually reinforcing this difference through hierarchy, right? That's the last thing I want to do. While you say some stuff on that, give me a second. I'm looking forward.
So wait, so that like with fighting against the oppression, we are creating some more of it, basically, or a different kind of oppression, right? That was your was that
right?
What?
We're doing both. I see. I think we're creating a different kind of. We're not really creating a different kind of oppression. We're redistributing the oppression. But it's not. We're also reinforcing it because it's making defensive people that, like, there are white people that are weak and useless, and they can't get a job, so they're trying to advocate for their was that quote, the to the privileged equality seems like oppression. So they experience it as this lowering. And so then you've got men who are like, well, women are getting paid better and they have better jobs and they're prettier than us. So the men's rights movement. I mean, aren't we creating these cross intersectional systems of oppression by reinforcing them, by saying, okay, well, you're this other thing, so you're different than me, so much so that I can't even be a part of you? I mean, isn't that kind of...
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that if there is some things like that, I mean, again, I'm not really strong on what's going on, like keeping up with what's going on and stuff. I just, I'm kind of dealing with not social philosophy that much, but well, let's say in principle, yeah, of course, there shouldn't be any kind of exclusion here, even like I mean, yeah, even like saying like what you said previously, like you are a man, you can't really understand what it's like to be a woman and stuff. I mean, you should be able, like, for any type of philosophy that you're arguing for, you should be able to make it universally approachable. I mean, if you can't do that, well, maybe there's some very arbitrary element in your philosophy that makes it appealing to some people, and you should probably be aware of that and not make those arbitrary elements have any part of your philosophy. I mean, you could say that maybe, I mean, that's such a complicated topic. I really don't know. Like, my thoughts aren't clear on that. Right now, I'm getting two vibes from two different opposing thoughts that I want to expand on, and I'm not really sure which direction I should go in. One is that, yeah, your theory should be universal and universally approachable, but the other one is, yeah, maybe maybe it is hard sometimes to get ideas from, for example, yeah, if you're in a very privileged situation, you won't really give much consideration to some marginal theories, but maybe they should get your attention. Maybe just because of who you are, what your life has been, you're simply not prepared to you're simply not prepared to get the idea, and you're not able to completely get the extent of what it's talking about, because certainly, I mean, your view, your perspective on life has been so much determined by your privileged position. So yeah, I guess you could definitely argue for both, and I don't see. Yeah, I certainly haven't thought about this enough to know in which direction to go with it. So.
We've been, it's, as a philosophy group, it's been inundated with political science, which is, come on, that's technically a different thing. But at the same time, they do connect. So it's one of those conundrums that we're both forced into. We're about 2 hours and 10 minutes in. So I think that we can save the political rhetoric for next time. And I think it'd be great to do more thought experiments. I think we should come up with some thought experiments that we can do as a section. This has become kind of the meme review, because we haven't done one yet where we've shown these memes. I kind of wanted to, maybe, unless you've got a better one, I wanted to show this one. I really like this one. This is from the Kyriarchy diagram from Elizabeth Schuler, I think is her name, and I'll put a link somewhere. But there's been some data on this concept, which she's a feminist, intersectionalist, and she's looked at this concept that through divisive politics and identity politics, you start to create these, and this is the model here, where you have Asians over here, blacks over there, and then Asians and Amerindians, there's a cross section between them, but they're only a certain part of it that fit. And then if you're an Asian Amerindian, masculine cisgender, or you're a female cisgender, then you're in an even further off breaking apart. But there's still Amerindians on both sides of the spectrum, but they're way on the polar scale, because one's a male and one's a female. But then you've got all the males. The males are broken up into the different colors. And then near the center, there's not a much larger section, but it's still an essential section between able-bodied and disabled-bodied LGBTQIA, which I think should be AI at the end there. Because what about artificial intelligent homosexuals? They exist too. But we've got this I in the center of the Kyriarchy, which this concept is essentially that every single person here is all part of a group. But this group has been broken up into so many groups that everyone's oppressing each other. You don't need wolves to scare the sheep. If you have the sheep convince themselves that they have different kinds of sheep that wear different badges. And I think this is actually kind of bigger than patriarchy or matriarchy or autocracy or authoritarianism or communism or any sort of political science. I think philosophically, this is our biggest issue right now, is the division, the divisive quality of perception, which makes us think that we're not part of the same group, or that we're polar opposite. If it, when we're really all sort of, at some point, another way to look at it is that we're all connected. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, but do they go so far with their identity politics as to actually, do they actually? I mean, I'm not really aware of what's going on with those movements, but in theory, they should just be advocating for, well, there's been a discrimination against them, so positive discrimination until equality. That should be, I think, the line where that should be the goal of the whole movement. But what's going on here is that I mean, what is going on here is that the division going further than this. Is there some new ontology being set up of this identity groups that basically people get identified in, in this new ontology that makes it seem as if the collective goals of each group are pulling in different directions, and with this a new kind of tension emerges.
That's a really interesting perspective, because if you think about how this pulls everything apart, it's pulling it apart by its individuality. And if you see where things are more centric, Well, you get to a point where man and woman and able-bodied, disabled body there's a centric point, right? Like that middle point there is the goal. Is this homogenized thing which has no race, has no gender, has no capacity or incapacity. It just is. It's the eye of the lizard person in this circumstance. But it could be whatever you want to refer to it as, because that's kind of, that's, I think, the metaphor for the dollar bill or something. But you still get this idea that if we remove ourselves from the equation, then we can all be part of the biggest whole. I mean, but is that the right whole? Is that holistic if it removes everyone's individuality and diversity?
Yeah, I mean, maybe the central goal could go against the interest of many of those groups listed here, right? We don't even know. I mean, yeah, maybe there's a more heuristic or practical purpose in defining the groups like that in this new ontology, because, well, if you're failing, and that's maybe one of the postmodernist ideals, if you're failing to see the true goal, if you're failing to see what's truly good, if you're lacking a theory of everything in this ethical sense, then maybe you should do the practical thing and divide the goals of groups of people into some more manageable little units that maybe you don't see the central goal, but at least now it's manageable and all those groups can pull into the direction for their practical purposes until we get somewhere, I guess. That could be one way of looking at this, I guess. Yeah.
Well, hopefully this page will load faster. Okay, everybody, I think we've done a good. I think we've done a good almost 2.5 hours. I think this is a great start, guys. Make sure you check out Advanced Philosophy Memes. Go to tartarynova.com if you haven't already figured that out. Like, this is where we're working through this. Give us money, and if you don't want to just give us money, although you could and you should, it's awesome, it's fun, and it's humanitarian. Buy a shirt, buy a jacket, buy some Tartary Nova or APM merchandise. Should be easier than ever to do. You can get stickers. You can even get COVID masks. We're that crazy. So thanks a lot. I appreciate that you did this, Aljoša. This is awesome. And I think this is a pretty
thank you.
Dude.
Yeah,
I guess,
also,
you know what? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, also, if anyone here is interested in philosophy of language, philosophy of mind, you can hop over to my YouTube channel, Baby Fabula. We're just dealing with aphantasia in the current moment, which is the blindness of the mind's eye, being unable to have any kind of visual imagination. So if anyone's interested about that,
I'm trying to pull it up. I'm trying to open it up so I can show that people. There we go. Also, if you guys speak Slovenian, definitely check out the channel because there's some Slovenian poetry and stuff. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, definitivno pridite.
I messed it up, didn't I? Hold on. New window. There. Click the stream button. Share. Application window. Toplak. Boom.
Lahko malo po slovensko govorim, da ljudje dobijo občutek, kaj je to slovenščina. Hey, wait, what is this?
Oh boy.
I see.
This is somebody else's video of you, but it's still pretty cool.
Yeah. That's
Dude,
nice.
I do like X-Men. So yeah, he exists, and I'm going to put them all over the Tartary. So if you want to get better links, go to the Tartary Discord. Check out this here. Go to the APM forum. I think I'm going to play the video that we played on the way in because that was cool.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Yeah.
So rookie the way I do this. My bad, guys. My bad. Oh, and then you need the sound. God, this is just. Come on, guys. All right.
This program is coming to you via Relay 2 satellite. The spacecraft.
Okay, what's a nice talk?
Is it really not working? There we go.
No, it's working.
Okay, I was scared.
Yeah.
The program is coming to you via Relay 2 satellite. A spacecraft orbiting the Earth at a speed of 17,000 miles.
Opa.
Hey.
Opa. I want to sleep so I can't properly scream next time.
Xirtus. Thanks a lot, man. See you next time.
Hey, thank you. Bye.